Hello and welcome to the Winging It Travel Podcast YouTube channel. Join me on my journey as I travel across the world, seeking out adventures, meeting new people and trying out new things. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. We start off in Ottawa and making our way to Mauricie National Park in the province of Quebec. And then we go and check out Quebec City, one of the oldest cities in North America. A mix of new, nature and old in this one. Let's get stuck in. Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Winging It Travel Podcast. And today we're going to cover days 31 to 35. And that's going to be Ottawa to Mauricie National Park and Quebec City. And the final bit will be going Quebec City to Montreal. We're well into the Quebec province now, so the French-speaking part of Canada. And our French skills are going to be tested to the limit here, as we both cannot speak French. Anyway, next day, after leaving Ottawa fairly satisfied, we said goodbye to Harry the dog and checked out of our Airbnb and went to Ottawa town centre again. So we parked in the same area, walked into town to go and get a coffee at a fantastic little place called Little Victory. First of all, when we arrived there, the plan was to get a coffee, chill out, check out the coffee area, check out the cafe, walk around and do some more sightseeing. But then we started digging into what we want to do next, and it became clear that we just left it a bit late to do Quebec City because of prices, time, the weekend. We try not to book literally a day on the weekend because it can get busy and it can get pricey. In probably about an hour, we switched our plans right around, and we're like, no, we're going to go to Mauricie National Park, then do Quebec City, and work our way down to Ontario. So we set off for Mauricie National Park. The journey from Ottawa to Mauricie National Park is around 4 hours. So we set off, got out of that coffee shop, walked straight back to the car and pretty much got going. No bookings ahead. We're going to arrive into the national park and hopefully get 1 or 2 nights stay. We wanted 2 nights, but we're fully aware it can get booked up in the summer. So we thought, okay, we'll go there and see what the go is. The original plan was to go to actually Montreal first, then Quebec, but we think if we go to Mauricie National Park and then go to Quebec, it kind of starts up and works our way back down to Toronto for the week after. So we switched up a little bit, no dramas. Got to the national park in Mauricie probably about 6 p.m, so quite late. The drive was nice, lots of greenery, the roads were quiet, not many people going there. We arrived and asked for a campsite and fully booked, apparently. I'll come to this in a second. So initially I thought, first bit of bad luck with this. So we turned around and we searched for some free nights to stay somewhere. And actually we found somewhere in the little town just before we get to the national park. And it's like a little parking site with a toilet. And there's a second parking lot down the road from there. We thought we'd decide to stay in one of those and just see if we could do a free night. In the little town of Saint Jean de Piles, or Piles, I'm not sure how you pronounce it in French. We found a little car park with a bench and we settled down for the night, cooked our dinner, got the bed ready and pretty much got there but darkness was starting to fall, so no messing around. Dinner, toilet, in bed. And actually that night was very, very quiet. It is next to the main road that goes into National Park, but it's such a quiet area you don't really hear anyone go past. So it's a bonus free night in terms of the budget, but a bit annoying that we couldn't go into the National Park. And obviously next morning we'll go to National Park and try and get another night. Next day we drove to the little town, I think it's called Shawinigan, and there we had a Macca's for breakfast and Wi-Fi to make sure we can catch up on stuff because there was no signal where we were staying. Had that, and then we decided to go to Mauricie National Park. Technically check-in is in the afternoon, but we do know that if you go around 11 a.m, they will know definitely by then who's checked out, how many spaces they have, and any cancellations really. So we popped up just before 11 a.m, and we drove through the gate straight into the park. So we had a parks pass, so we go straight in and got to the site where you actually book your accommodation. And she said, yep, there's a space, here's the number, drive in, it's yours. The reason we were suspicious of the day before is because the first barrier you get to the national park is just a barrier to get into national park. I don't think the person there working there would have a full itinerary of who's staying, who's not. So my advice would be, if you're turning up without a booking, is just go through that first barrier, go to the part of the park you want to stay in, and there they have a little barrier and they will know who's checked in, who's not, how many spaces they have, very key. I think if we'd done that the day before, we probably would have found a space, but we didn't know. Found out day after, no dramas, got a free night, but that's a bit of advice if you want to go there with no booking. So we got set up, secured the site. We normally put a tent up just to make sure we mark it and stuff like that. Then we got out to do some of the walks. We completed the Lac Solitaire walking route, which was about 5.5k around the lake. Bit up and down, not as easy as maybe some people have said, but doable, easy. Some red chairs up there, a great view of the lake. You can sit by the lake when you go around it, and it's a good few hours walking around there. We had a bit of lunch, can of Coke, absolute dream. The day was a bit cloudy, but warm enough, and a very nice walk to check out a lake. You can't beat a lake, can you? It was great to tick off more red chairs. We do keep ticking those off as we go through the country, and also just thoroughly enjoyed the area. Lots of trees, lots of greenery, lots of waterways in terms of the river and lakes. Very, very nice national park, that. So finally, after that walk, a bit knackered from that, chilled out, had some dinner, got an early night. The park cost 29 Canadian dollars to stay in. That's got great facilities such as the toilets, showers, etc. A great sleep, and the facilities were probably the best yet. The shower was definitely the best yet. Toilets are great. There's an area you can sort of sit in and do some work with charging points and stuff like that, and sit in and have dinner if it's raining or whatever. It did start to rain a little bit the day after, but facilities are fantastic. Would highly recommend it. Next up, Quebec City. So we had our breakfast sort of in the rain, headed to Quebec City, which takes about 2 hours from there, and we decided to book some accommodation at the university campus called Notre Dame de Foy. In the summer, a university is a great idea. No students, should be fairly cheap. This was $65 a night for a twin room, shared bathroom, of course, which will have toilets and showers. Just imagine you go back to university days, exactly that. There were some young kids on our floor, unfortunately. First night quite noisy, second night maybe got told off and a bit quieter, but all in all, not too bad. So the weather was a bit shit, but we decided to get into town, walk around, at least get something ticked off. The drive was about 20-25 minutes from that university to a parking lot we found. There's lots of parking lots in Quebec City. You're going to pay, but the best one we found, which was the closest to the city but free, but for 4 hours technically, is called 130 Rue des Sapeurs parking. This is quite a nice little parking spot by the water. It's about a 20-minute walk into town from there, but it is free, and it wasn't that full when we went there during the day. Weekends it's fairly full, so it's obviously something that people do park up on. But for 4 hours and 20-minute walk, decent. Walk straight into the old town, and Quebec Old Town is like walking into France. Cobbled streets, little brasseries, little cafes, little flags outside of buildings, that old style look. It's very touristy and very popular tourists because it's probably one of the oldest colonial towns in North America. It definitely is one of the oldest in Canada, and you do get that French feel. Quebec City is French pretty much only in terms of language. You're going to need some sort of French. You may get away with some basic English. We definitely did. Emma tried speaking French, got by a little bit, but how can I criticise when I don't know any French at all? But we got by, got some coffees and stuff like that. One of the most significant sightseeing things to see there is the Fairmont Hotel. It's right on top of the hill, overlooks Quebec City and the water. Fantastic views of the river going in as far as the eye can see, and it's pretty famous because that's where the D-Day landings and operations were kind of devised, in that hotel. And it's about $500 to $600 a night. You want to stay there, walk through it. Some people checking in. Real awkward place to go and drive to because it's right bang in the old town, but just walk up there, get some views, and you can go out and get some more views as you walk along the front in its grounds. The Monument of Faith is there as well, and every street is just so trendy. Cobble streets, windy, loved it. Once you're outside of the Fairmont Hotel, you can walk to the place called La Citadelle, which is like on top, even more perched on top of a hill. Great views from there. Got like some old guns and stuff like that. Imagine Quebec City, it's just on top of a hill, so obviously you can see what I built there. Amazing views, 360 degrees. It's just a bit of a pain to walk up because you've got to walk all the way down as well, so just bear that in mind. If you're going to walk from that car park, you're going to be walking uphill a fair bit at the start. So yeah, get to Old Town, walk around, tick off all the sites. You won't regret it. It's fantastic. It's busy, but hopefully if you go during the week, during the day, not too busy. But lots of coaches there dropping off tourists. We did get a coffee at a place called Café La Maisons Smith. It's right bang in Old Town. A proper cup here. Love that coffee, that's fantastic. And then we walked along the Plains of Abraham, which is basically towards the car, and you go all the way back down the steps to the main road where we parked. That's a heck of a decline, that, and it's not for the faint-hearted if you're going up. We saw some people running up it a couple of times, fair play, but just bear in mind it's pretty steep. Then we had one of our best travel hacks yet on this trip. We went to IKEA for dinner. They do mashed potatoes or chips with veggie meatballs, peas, gravy and some berry jam or whatever it is for $7. So that's fantastic. That's a good travel hack if you want to get a cheap dinner at IKEA. Sometimes they reduce that to $5, so keep an eye on that. But a really cheap dinner if you want someone cooked. Next day, Quebec City again, because the weather was better. So we got a coffee and a croissant at a local cafe called Le Touc Gourmandes. Not sure if I pronounced that right again, but a fantastic croissant and coffee. Well worth it. I mean, the croissants in Quebec already are fantastic, so this is great. And it's a much nicer day, much sunnier. So we drove right back to the same car parking spot, back into town to get more views, pretty much the same thing, but just a nice sunnier day. And then, for the afternoon, we went to meet a previous guest on the podcast called Frank Paradis. Check his episodes out. He's the one who's hitchhiked in Afghanistan, Pakistan, the Congo. He lives in Quebec City, so caught up with him, had a great chat all afternoon. Fantastic, loved that. Love meeting other guests in person. It's always great to do that. And that pretty much was the rest of the day. Evening was a local dinner nearby, takeout. But it's great to get some travel chat on the go. I do miss that a little bit. Then finally, the drive from Quebec City to Montreal is about 3 hours. You can do it in 2.5 if you get a move on. So we got coffee and a croissant at a place recommended to us called Le Bot à Pain. We accidentally ordered the wrong croissant. I probably jumped the gun. I thought it looked like a chocolate croissant. Actually had ham and cheese on it. Emma had to give me the ham. I had the ham and cheese with extra ham. Emma had a cheese croissant. I actually thought it tasted pretty good. The coffee was okay too. So we drove to Montreal quite leisurely, 3 to 4 hours. And the best thing about this is we're going to get to Montreal and stay at my sister's friend's apartment, which is in a trendy area in Montreal. And we're just looking forward to a TV, a bed and a kitchen. To be fair, after pretty much been on the road for a long while, we've done a few Airbnbs, don't get me wrong, but a proper apartment, home living, great to get there in the evening and just chill out and watch TV. Dream. Sums up today's episode. So that's the French part of this trip kicking off there. Loved Quebec City. I thought it was great to get some old European style stuff on the go. Love the croissants, love the coffee. Bit touristy in Quebec, but I think it's expected when it's one of the oldest places in North America to be colonised. You must go to Quebec City and check that out, but also go to Mauricie National Park. Great views, trees, water everywhere. Some of the best facilities. Very comfortable to stay there. But we did feel like Quebec and Quebec City and Quebec province, the weather wasn't that great. A bit colder, so about 20-21 degrees, rain. It wasn't hot as the previous part of the trip. We're not complaining, it's just changed up a little bit from what we're used to. But that's today's episode, and next episode is going to be Montreal. So see you next time. Cheers. Please follow and subscribe on my YouTube channel today, and please rate and review the podcast on any podcast platform that you use. Thank you.